You've been to Jesus for the cleansing power. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace, His love? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless, are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you walking on the rain?
We live our lives alone, try to make it on our own. Still heartaches and emptiness remain. But if we hold on to God's hand, He will lead us to a land where the sun will shine beyond the rain. Beyond the rain, there'll be no more dying, no more crying, no more pain. When we put our lives in the hands of Jesus, He will lead us beyond the rain. Battle has been won. God sent His only Son to fulfill the power of His name.
His loved ones gone before Him, and the love of His wife, His darling wife, Edith. He would want us to take comfort in each other in the days ahead, and He would want us to remember Him in a simple conversation, a story, or a song. He would want us to know that the memories of Him and His love will always be with us. So when tomorrow starts without me, and I'm not here to see, if the sun should rise and find your eyes all filled with tears for me, I wish you wouldn't cry the way you do today, while thinking of the many things we did not get to say. I know how much you love me, as much as I love you. Each time that you think of me, I know you'll miss me too. So when tomorrow starts without me, please try to understand that an angel came and called my name and took me by the hand. The angel said my place was ready in heaven far above, and that I would have to leave behind all those I dearly love. But when I walked through heaven's gate, I felt so much at home, when God looked down and smiled at me from His golden throne. He said, Eric, this is your eternity, and all I promised you. Today, for life on earth is done, but here it starts brand new. I promise no tomorrow. I promise no tomorrow, for today will always last. And since each day is the exact same way, there is no longing for the past. So when tomorrow starts without me, do not think we're apart. For every time you think of me, remember I'll be right here in your heart.
When he was sitting probably on the island up in the gas bar waiting for business. It was called Gas Bar Blues. It was the sweetest song I thought I ever heard. But the first line spoke this morning to me. Thank you, Lawrence, Chris, family, for inviting me to be the one to pay tribute to that. This past few days I've read hundreds of tributes my friends and loved ones who have offered their own personal tributes. Beautiful words. Phyllis and I were very close friends with Burry and Edith, especially after our marriage in 1965. And when our son was born, I think they adopted him as well. Having two children of their own, Lance and Chris, they knew and understood the joy of family. In fact, those of Edith were very much like sisters. Jeff probably figured, because he was so young, that Eric and Edith were his second grandparents. Anyway, that relationship never wavered. Over 60 years. I want to share, first of all, my son's recollections of Eric. He says, I'm sharing the sadness of your dad's passing, but feeling ever blessed and grateful for a life that was long and well lived among us. Your parents and you have always been and are more than close family friends. You are family. Eric has left us all with many wonderful and cherished memories to reflect on over a long life of service and dedication to his beloved community. I want to share some of these with you. For me, Eric was the heart and soul of Greenspond, and will be fondly remembered by so many for decades of joy and happiness that he brought to us through his gift of music and song. These were gifts that he shared willingly, so well, so importantly, across all the seasons. He remembers the dulcets who entertained and pleased us all, building out their popular rock tunes, rock and roll and country tunes of the time, as they danced the night away at the Parish Hall, the Orange Lodge, Charlie Ann, and the Eye Lounge. Eric's voice was strong and powerful, with rich, deep tones that blended in great harmony with John Bryan. He played rhythm to John's lead guitar and brought Lons and others along in that musical ride. This is my first and favorite musical memories will always be a very plain drums. He's why I always took an interest in that myself. And I still hear the delightful crowds with the booming fills of Whiteout. And the humorous storyteller and true entertainer, he could top them all. We'll never forget Eric's classical voice, contortions, and his cock-a-doodle-doo rendering of My Blues. Eric inspired and encouraged Megan in her younger years to play guitar, and I loved our visits when they played tunes on their acoustics. Eric penned and recorded his own songs of Greenspond and other stories and all other kinds of shenanigans that will become timeless keepsakes and treasures for us. Your parents' enterprise in Greenspond came to an important time in the life of the community, and they spent countless hours working and sustaining them. Their genuine, kind, and nature allowed them to manage the credit system that residents entrust with faith, knowing how important it was to do that. How many times did I stop in for a quick visit with your mom after school, get a pop, a bag of chips, and a few packs of hockey cards, and just simply ask her, put it in Mom's book. The Eye Lounge became an iconic gathering place that all the patrons loved, still miss to this day. Edward certainly helped give it character as your mom's trusted and long-serving manager. Now, I have eaten fried chicken all over the world. While no trip to Gander was complete without a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, I can tell you that Eric Burry's chicken was the best that I have ever eaten in my almost 60 years. It's a taste for me that it can never be replicated or duplicated, and I expect I never will. Cars were an essential part of our family adventures. Chris, you saved me from harm on Ben Burry's Hill when Dad's car rolled down on that fateful day. I remember Eric's big cars, the Mercury Montego, very low to the ground, Ford LTD, short weekend trips, to Square Pond and our longer trips to Pasadena and the West Coast. Not to mention, of course, our trips to the mainland, especially to Bangor, Maine. Sure, much fun and frolic was Ed after my bedtime in those days. I loved your mom and dad, and they were my home. We take comfort now believing and knowing that they are together again. On this day, at this time, that you bid farewell to your dad, I will drink a toast to him here in Prince Edward Island with a glass of red wine. I will listen to the lyrics of his favorite field guiding song, and I will hear his and John's voices singing in melody in great harmony once again. And just let the sound and taste linger for a while. Johnny Cash, one of your dad's favorite musicians, once said, "Life and love go on. Let the music play, and so it must. With all my love, Jack." Allow me, if you will, to have a few words of my own. Or when I be, keep going. Thank you. This is permission from the boss. She's been most gracious. I'm not going to bore you with a long list of details of Eric and his life. I will start off by saying that he started out as a painter in Gander with his Uncle Sid. But he came back to Greenspond when he married my aunt, Edith, in 1956. I was at that wedding. In fact, Eric reminded me of it many years after, many times, when I sneaked a big, dark cake covered with icing off the table, got in under the table, and went and ate it until my grandmother, Aunt Anna, caught me. Well, that was another story. When he came home, of course, he didn't go back. He took a new turn. He went fishing with his brother-in-law, Louis Orr. But ambitious to be a little bit better, he built a long liner in the Springs Pond. All that under the guidance and advice, I think, of Uncle Roy Howard and Uncle Art. Later on, he built another one. This time he dedicated it to his first granddaughter, called Karen Cole. It was quite big, but it still worked. That came to an end, and he lost the sight of his eye. Now, a few years before all this took place, he had decided that he wanted to establish Eden in a small grocery store. And so he purchased Uncle David Burry's shop in Vaughan Inn, dragged it down down near the post office. It was on that particular hill that my car rolled down, almost wiping out Chris and Jack. Anyway, he expanded that enterprise, that little store, after he sort of got out of the fishery, and renovated Roll Carter's store, and called it the High Tide Lounge, and attached to it was a chicken farm. Later on, he purchased the old co-op, and he moved from the little store into the big store. He had nothing else to do with his money, so he decided that he was going to spend it. Put gas for on top of the island. That's it. But I want to tell you this, that even though he was now financially secure, he never forgot the community. He never forgot the churches that he belonged to. Didn't make any difference what you were, whether you were United or Anglican or Salvation Army. He served them all. He became a member of the Loyal Orange Lodge at a young age, and the Society of United Fishermen. These were fraternal organizations that supported the members and also helped those who in need. When the Lions Club was formed here in 1986, he became a charter member. He was always there to raise money. Great that because they could always have a concert or a show. And money would come in. Anyway, he wanted several projects in mind. One was he wanted to build a mini museum to store the hearse and sleigh. That still stands as a memorial to his idea and the work of the Lions Club. And the other project that he took a great delight in was the Sealers Lookout on the top of the island, to honor the memory of the men from this community as sealers who went to the ice fishery every year. It's also one of the best places, I think, around that you can use for viewing the community and the surrounding ocean. In fact, I think if you remember, Pete Perfect does a beautiful job on a song that he wrote with that background. You talk about being a part of history. He found time to serve on council for several years. He was notably there as well with me in the tumultuous years pre the construction of the Greenspond Causeway, played his part. But of course, you all know, of course, that it all comes down to not what he did, but the music itself. That was his love, that he shared with everyone. He was an accomplished musician, a wonderful singer, an entertainer extraordinaire, and a songwriter too. Of course, a lot of these songs are written in times of quiet contemplation, inactivity, or even boredom. As I said, the gas bar loop was one of these crazy songs. Even sillier than that was the one he made up about me, the fire. I don't know if you know it or not, but I could always tell Eric was thinking seriously about something or had some strange idea in his head. Reminded me a lot of Jim Compton. Come up with these wonderful ideas. The time that he used to take his hair, that was never so long. Something was going through his head. He was on the subway. But the music was in his blood. While in Gander, he became a part of a duo with Eric Waterman. Two Erics. Not the two Ron's, but two Erics. And they played around town in the surrounding area. When he came home, of course, he still had that love, so he formed the Dulcet with John and Brian. And you know what the story there. Expanded it to include Lance, his own son. I don't know how he got into the club when he was there anyway, but I don't think he drank. And no name. And I think Pete, you were part of that later on. He was a member of the Lodge band. He had bands back in these days, you know. I'm not sure if he played in the Salvation Army or whether he didn't. But he played on parades on New Year's Day, Candlemas Day, and any other times that the opportunity was there. Took part in the Christmas concerts that we used to have. Always part of it. Whether it was a United Church or Anglican, or one the Salvation Army had on Christmas Day in the lodge. He was there as part of it. He entertained at the Heritage Academy, I remember, and he did a benefit concert there. He was also part of the Lions Christmas Seniors Christmas dinner. And the Anglican Church women, when they started this Christmas in July, he was always part of that. In fact, it was so popular with the groups here in the town, especially the ACW women, that they made him and George Coward honorary members of the ACW. First time that I know any two men ever allowed to join a church organization. I don't think I told you, but he was an excellent storyteller. Fantastic memory for times and places, people and events. Loved telling those stories. And his brother Roland used to say, Eric was great at embellishments. Was it Eric or was it Roland? Anyway, it was a wonderful brother, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather. To me, he was a great friend. Anita developed Parkinson's, was forced to retire from her business. He dedicated his time to looking after her. When she had to move to Von News Lodge for better care, he visited her every single day. Took care of her personal needs. And it was at that time he started to develop interests in other things to keep himself going. And he had hobbies, woodworking, creating those mini replicas. I think was the word you used, Krista? Krista. Okay, I always get that wrong. But he made replicas of the Union Store and the Orange Lodge, the Salvation Army, as well as boats that he knew about. When he had passed away in 2018, of course, he had lots of time on his hand now, and he spent quality time developing a good relationship with his three closest grandchildren, Chase, Cole, and Kate. He called them his little boys. Now, I've said enough. He's talking. I want to conclude by going back to Eric's writing. The song that I like best of all that he wrote is his portrayal of Greenspond, in a tribute to Greenspond. It was recorded by Pete on YouTube back in August 29th, 2008. And my indication is that it received 18,673 views. That's the latest that I have. He was passionate about where he was born and proud to tell about what part of the world he came from. And that song is called Paradise. a saying that says, sometimes it's not the song that makes you emotional, it's the people and the things that come to mind. My final thoughts, Eric, are these. The words were in your song, but the song was in your soul. Just bear it in mind. The words were in his song, but the song was in his soul. Rest in peace, my brother. May light perpetual shine upon you. Until we meet again. Amen. Thank you.
An very past, so unfortunately he can't be here. But he wanted to express his deepest sympathies. And one of the things that he mentioned that he would always miss is jamming with Uncle Burry, getting together. And he said he would call me and say, "What are you doing?" Nothing. When he moved here for 5 years. "Take your guitar and come up," Mary said. And then it would always go up and spend an hour or two, which turned into 3 or 4 playing guitar. So he wanted to extend his deepest sympathies. I put a post on Facebook yesterday when I saw the song that Peter posted about how Uncle Burry's voice was silenced, but his memory would move on. When I came into this beautiful church this morning, I realized how wrong I was. His voice would never be silenced. Death to grave will never silence a man with so much talent and passion for music. And that music will live on as a legacy for his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and even those generations not born yet. They will hear his voice, and they will know him intimately through his music. The family asked me to read a poem. The poem is called "The Dash." I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little time was worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love, and now we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. The love of the people in our lives like we'd never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? And Uncle Burry spent his dash very, very well. Thank you.
There it goes, and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. The old house is still standing, though the painted